major crime. Well, every crime, though, major and minor, has had his name on it. And sir, those are your words, not mine. And this is one of those instances where the house was set on fire, and you claim responsibility for those laws. And you can't just now come up with a plan to put out that fire.
Biden's recent calls to redirect funding away from local police departments and decriminalize drugs is a far cry from this Joe Biden, criticizing then-President George H.W. Bush's anti-drug plan.
In a nutshell, the president's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs, not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time.
Biden joined with Senator Strom Thurmond to begin mass incarceration and even death for drug offenders.
Under the leadership of Senator Thurmond, and I'd like to suggest that I take some small credit for it myself as well, and others, the presiding officers, that there's now a death penalty.
Biden and Thurmond were on a tear.
The death penalty. It provides 53 death penalty offenses.
Biden was on a mission to radically change crime law. Harper's Magazine called it the age of mass incarceration for Black Americans.
We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill.
Drug criminals who weren't sentenced to death lost everything and were locked away.
We changed the law so that if you are arrested, if you are a drug dealer, under our forfeiture statute, you can, the government can, take everything you own. Everything from your car to your house to a bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the
And they were all people of color.
that you just got caught engaging in. You take everything. We have laws in the last several years where we don't allow judges discretion to sentence people. Flat time sentencing. You get caught, you go to jail.
Biden took to the Senate floor to push for more mass incarceration and over 100,000 new police officers. He was not shy in revealing his true fears.
Every time Richard Nixon, when I was running in 1972, would say law and order, the Democratic mantra, the response was law and order with justice. Remember that? And I'd say lock the SOBs up.
The crime bill was signed by President Clinton in 1994. As Biden and Clinton celebrated, the bill devastated communities of color across the country.
Yep.
In 2019,
And Trump released him.
Magazine called Joe Biden
Gave him a second chance law.
mass incarceration worse than any other Democratic candidate. Today, perhaps in an attempt to appease the social justice progressive wing of his party, Biden sings a different tune, casting the police as part of the problem.
The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy.
As he told this progressive activist, he supports redirecting money from the police.
My generic point is
But
that,
can we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
yes, absolutely.
But Biden quickly clarified his remarks, as many view redirecting funding to mean defunding police.
Do you support defunding the police?
No, I don't support defunding the police. I support conditioning federal aid to police based on whether or not they meet certain basic standards of decency and honorableness, and in fact are able to demonstrate they can protect the community.
The Washington Post wrote the Biden campaign marks a significant move to the left from where Biden and his party were only recently, on everything from climate and guns to health care and policing. When we return, Joe Biden's close relationship with China and a father-son roadshow that's serious cash. The year was 2013, and President Obama had just won a second term. Vice President Joe Biden was headed to China. The official reason was to push for the administration's so-called rebalance of power in Asia. The Bidens had something else planned. Joe's son, Hunter Biden, was forming a Chinese private equity fund that was planning to raise billions.
This
video shows Chinese diplomats greeting Vice President Biden as he arrived in Beijing in December of 2013. Right by his side, his son Hunter. Less than 2 weeks later, Hunter's firm had new business, creating an investment fund in China involving the government-controlled Bank of China. With reports, they hope to raise $1.5 billion.
As Joe and Hunter Biden deplaned Air Force Two on the runway in Beijing, there were two cars waiting. One to escort Joe Biden to meet with government leaders, another whisking Hunter Biden to the Bank of China.
Unknown to the press back then, Hunter Biden was forming a Chinese private equity fund, planning to raise money, including from Chinese investors. 10 days after the Biden's trip, Shanghai authorities issued the fund's business license.
If I only got to hear you sing, it would have been worth the trip.
In a mere 10 days after the official trip, Shanghai authorities had issued the license. Coincidentally, Hunter Biden's new investment fund received a $1.5 billion investment from China. Hunter was on the board of directors of the group.
The way I was raised was to believe that change presents opportunity.
Mr. Vice President, what's your take on that? Was there a conflict of interest there? Was there a clear conflict of interest?
Yes.
While he was vice president, took billions of dollars in bribes from the Chinese government in the form of payments to his son Hunter's businesses. In exchange, Biden was soft on Chinese military and economic aggression.
In 2019, Hunter Biden was peppered with questions about his billion-dollar fund.
GTV.org,
What do you say to people
I think, is
who
the
believe
website.
This is exactly why people hate Washington.
And he was into
A vice president's son can make
porn
money
videos in China.
in countries where your father is doing.
And he was a crack addict.
By the way, well, I don't know what to tell you.
The investment raised questions about Joe Biden's consistent support of China in U.S. policy circles.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the east, in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system. They're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not a competition for us.
It also may help explain Joe Biden's strong opposition to President Trump's early intervention banning travel from China in the early throes of the global coronavirus pandemic.
On January 31st, I imposed travel restrictions on foreign nations who had, and anybody that had been to China, or people coming out of China.
Biden called the move xenophobic.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia. But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia.
You're the only one panicking, Joe.
Foreign virus
Losing all that money.
does not displace accountability for the misjudgments that have been taken thus far by the Trump administration.
Joe Biden didn't just side with China on the virus. He did. He called me, again, xenophobic. That's what he said. You all heard it many times. He described the rise of China as, quote, a very positive development. Not a positive development. Not for us, it's not.
Even Trump's critics admit the travel ban was crucial to slowing the spread of the virus within the U.S.
We don't need any new sanction laws.
Biden consistently opposed sanctions on China, even when the country was blatantly taking advantage of the United States, including stealing intellectual property.
The Senate's passage last week of legislation granting China permanent normal trade relations, even though the chairman and I disagreed on that issue, I think has to be viewed as a significant accomplishment.
He fought for China's membership into the World Trade Organization, along with most favored nation trade status. 20 years later, everything Biden supported proved dead wrong. Nearly 4 million American jobs lost, and American manufacturing decimated.
It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper.
As recently as 2011, in the wake of staggering job loss from China, Biden reiterated his support for a strong China in an op-ed he wrote for the New York Times. Biden wrote, "I remain convinced that a successful China can make our country more prosperous, not less." That same year, this was the headline.
Standard & Poor's stripped the US of its AAA credit rating earlier this month.
prompting the Chinese state news agency Xinhua to write, "The days when the debt-ridden Uncle Sam could leisurely squander unlimited overseas borrowing appear to be numbered."
With Biden's help, China enjoyed tremendous prosperity at the expense of American businesses and workers. This relationship led to Biden receiving a tremendous amount of money from China.
The Penn Biden Center's Penn's home in Washington, D.C. It is incredibly important that we be there to be at the center of shaping the national policy debate about our place in the world.
In fact, it turns out the Biden Center at the University of Pennsylvania is largely dependent on China for its operation. The Biden Center failed to report tens of millions of dollars in donations. Since 2017, the Biden Center accepted $22 million in anonymous funds.
That's like a Clinton Foundation.
Federal law requires any foreign gift over $250,000 must be disclosed. Members of Congress
Make money using positive words.
concerned about potential foreign influence, as the university saw a tidal wave of over $70 million in Chinese cash flow through the doors since the Biden Center was established. When we return, Joe and Hunter Biden's overseas roadshow heads to Ukraine for another big payday.
Oh boy. You voted for him.